From the Fox News radio studios in New York City, information you want, truth you demand. It's Brian Kilmeade.
Hi, everyone. Brian Kilmeade. Thanks so much for listening. We've got an exciting show, an hour coming your way. Ambassador Alexander Vershbow will be with us. He's a distinguished fellow at the Brent Scowcroft Center. Man, his resume is fantastic. Ambassador to NATO, Ambassador to Russia, Ambassador to the Republic of South Korea, and of course, Deputy Secretary General of NATO. So he has a lot to discuss because things are moving with North and South Korea, and they revolve around us. It's an odd time in our North Korea-American relations, but something had to change, and at the very least, it's changing. North and South Korea have decided to get along. A lot of positive developments have come out of that. Ambassador Vershbow joins us now. Ambassador, welcome back.
Good to be back, Brian.
So we understand, according to the president's tweets and South Korean statements, Kim Jong-un has agreed to allow nuclear inspections subject to final negotiations and to permanently dismantle one test site and launch pad in the presence of international experts. In the meantime, there'll be no rocket or nuclear testing. So we'll see how that goes. They're also talking about a joint Olympic effort to co-host the 2032 games. Ambassador, put this in perspective.
Well, I'm a bit skeptical that we've seen significant progress towards what is the number one goal, denuclearization. It's nice to see a lot of positive developments in North-South relations. We want to see the two Koreas put an end to their hostility, to pull the troops back, pull the artillery back from the border, establish all these buffer zones and family reunions. All that's very nice. But the North-South relationship is clearly getting way out in front of the denuclearization process, which is supposed to be the priority. And it's giving Kim Jong-un some big opportunities to drive a wedge between Washington and Seoul, which is their traditional tactic. So I fear that we may be walking into another black hole, and I think we should not rush into a second U.S.-North Korean summit till we can get the focus back on real denuclearization. I mean, the gestures that they talked about in Pyongyang at the North-South summit are nice, but they're very much steps short of what is really supposed to happen under denuclearization, which is the elimination of the weapons, elimination of the missiles, and not just shutting down one test site, which is just a fraction of the problem.
Right. And by the way, Russia and China are flagrantly abusing the sanctions. And that was Ambassador Haley made that clear on the floor. Of course, they deny doing that. But countless numbers of ships have gone in and out being supplied, and they have Russian origins. Just to give you an idea of the flavor, through translation, Moon Jae-in and Kim Jong-un yesterday, cut 33.
I want to salute your grand resolve to open a new era in not only South and North Korea, but also in North Korea and the U.S. relations.
I think there will be further progress between North Korea and the U.S.
So, I mean, then they talked about the Olympics and other things. So what do you think? Do we send the Secretary of State over there now to talk, or would that be more a bridge too far? You know what they want? They want an easing of the sanctions and a final ending of the Korean War. Should we give them either one?
Well, we may want to give them those things at some point in the process, but we need to get something in return that puts them to the test on actual denuclearization, and they're trying to sidestep that. They're basically trying to get us to accept a freeze on certain activities, but no dismantlement of the weapons, no dismantlement of the missiles, which is what this is supposed to be all about. So, but we should engage. I would not put President Trump in the same room with Kim at this stage. We should send our new special representative for these negotiations, Steve Biegun, for some face-to-face talks with the North Koreans, coordinating very closely with the South Koreans, the Japanese, and other people who have a stake in this. And at that face-to-face meeting, we should put a proposed timetable for denuclearization that would eliminate their programs by the end of the president's first term, which is what they allegedly have offered to do. And we can offer these different kinds of rewards at each step of the way. We're going to have to, do a quid pro quo, but we should hold the biggest cards in reserve until we get closer to the real goal, which is elimination of the nuclear threat. A declaration to end the Korean War, it's largely a symbolic thing. So we might want to trade that for something like a declaration of their actual nuclear inventory with international inspections to verify that they're not cheating. And from there, we can turn to dismantlement. But they want us to make all the concessions only for symbolic gestures, and that's not a good deal.
Well, I agree with you, too, but I also would say this. I've been told, too, if we end the war, do we lose the rationale for keeping 35,000 troops there?
Yeah. That's something we have to be very clear about, that it doesn't represent that. And indeed, even a peace treaty would not remove the legal basis for our troops in South Korea. Those are based on a bilateral defense treaty going back to 1953. We might reduce our troops if there was a real disarmament process on the Korean Peninsula, with all the nukes disappearing, conventional forces being drawn down. They have more than 1 million people under arms right now. But those are steps that can come much later in the process. But we have to make clear that our alliance with South Korea is not negotiable.
Understood. Ambassador, overall, do you think that we should factor in some of Japan's needs? For example, some of the hostages, the people that have been kidnapped from their island. Should that play a role? And do you see another way, keeping an eye on the trade war we're at with China right now, should that be brought into the fray, into these conversations? Because we know they have the ability to really enforce or not enforce sanctions.
Mm-hmm. Well, it would be nice to have a more coherent policy towards China. I mean, I think the trade war is unfortunately complicating our efforts to get the Chinese to maintain the sanctions and to lean harder on the North Koreans when it comes to denuclearization. As for the Japanese, they certainly expect that we'll do something as part of these negotiations to get some answers about what happened to these people who were abducted sometimes 20, 30 years ago, and to return those who are still alive. I think that should be part of any peace process that goes hand in hand with denuclearization. But the North has been holding out on that for decades, and we should put them to the test on these humanitarian issues as well.
Yeah, Ambassador, can't thank you enough. I appreciate it. I just got to tap in before I let you go into your Russia angle. Yesterday, with your background there, yesterday the Polish leader came over and said, hey, we'll pay for the base. We'll name it Fort Trump. We just want your troops in Poland. They're concerned about Russia expansion. Should we do it?
I think we should look at some of the different options for what kind of troops or what kind of capabilities we could put on Polish territory. And we already have about 5,000 troops there on any given day. Most of them are rotating in and out, sometimes in Poland, sometimes going on maneuvers in Romania and other parts of Eastern Europe. But whatever we do, we should coordinate it with our NATO allies, because the aim should be to strengthen our ability to deter the Russians from carrying out any aggression, and maintaining a united front with the rest of our NATO allies. But there is a number of things that we could do in Poland. We could put air defense units. We could put some air squadrons. Don't necessarily have to put in thousands of ground troops, where we already have bases for those in Germany, in Italy, and allies have similar capabilities that rotate into the Baltic states and Poland.
All right, Ambassador, thanks again.
You're very welcome.
And back to Alexander Vershbow. I don't know better diplomatic resumes than the one that he has, from NATO to Korea to Russia. When we come back, Martha McCallum will join us, but more importantly, I got a ton of calls to get to, from Orlando to Long Island to California to Kentucky. This is the Brian Kilmeade Show. Derek, listening on the TuneIn app in West Bridgewater, Massachusetts. Derek.
Hey, Brian. I have to kind of contradict what your guest just said a little bit. He said that the trade war is affecting negotiations with China, helping us resolve the problem in North Korea.
Hurting us. He says it's hurting.
Huh?
He says it's hurting us.
Yeah, but, the real threat to America isn't North Korea. It's what China has been doing to us for the last 30 years. North Korea, we can resolve that problem. If they ever fight anything, they'd be gone in an instant. But China is a real threat to the United States. Their what they've been doing in the South China Sea, building up the military and what they've been doing to our stealing our intellectual property. President Trump's trying to resolve the issue, the big issue that nobody wants to talk about. I mean, we got half of Washington on the take with the lobbyists in Washington. Half of the Congress and people in Washington are on the take from Chinese lobbyists. I mean, we've got a national security issue. We've got people in America selling out the national security interests of our country to China right now. This situation has to be resolved. And I love what Trump said yesterday about if China tries to put tariffs on our farmers or our manufacturers, he's going to whack them with $250 billion more. He's protecting us. He's not hurting us. He's in the long term protecting us. And shame on the Democrats and anybody else that doesn't back our president in this mission to resolve this problem with China. That's the real problem we face.
Listen, I think if you look at Woodward's book, they make the president sound crazy because he wants to reconfigure and rebalance trade. And if you see what's happening, it's anything but. Right now, Canada is being forced domestically to come to the table and deal with us and rebalance our direction. Mexico already came to the table, so throw that out that he doesn't like Hispanics and doesn't give them the respect. He went to them first. Number two, the EU has the framework. You heard that yesterday. And you also know that with China, since we use so much of their products, since we import so much, we have put another $200 billion on them, and they basically played their last card yesterday with the $64 billion on us. They have to start detaining our products at port to get under our skin because we have more bullets in the chamber.
No matter how much people hate President Trump, we have to back him on this one because this is for America.
And the president could do a better job putting pressure on Democrats to back him because they've been complaining we've been too weak.